Final briefing of the day. And here we go. In 3, 2, 1, we are live. Welcome to Weather Center Live for one last run. It is 8 p.m., April 2nd, 2024. Welcome to my wonderful TikTok viewers. Welcome to my wonderful YouTube viewers. We are finally in the thick of it. We have countless tornado warnings currently ongoing. I won't say countless. We obviously can count them, and it looks like, thankfully, we can count them on one hand. We have more activity blossoming in Kentucky. As we said, guys, fact check me on YouTube. I mentioned southern half of Indiana, southern half of Ohio was going to be our action area. And would you look at that? We have all of our severe weather activity, our tornado warnings, our special weather statements, and that flash flood warning is still in effect for the eastern half of the state, currently in play, and it's going to remain that way. I do think we are going to continue to see the southern half of the state bombarded by our severe weather activity. Kentucky has seen a pretty strong amount of thunderstorm activity, few different confirmed tornadoes in the state of Kentucky. Tennessee is now finally getting lit up. Mississippi, from the northern half of the state down to the bottom one-third of the state, is undergoing some pretty moderate to strong thunderstorm activity. Same with central Alabama. Due south of Birmingham, southeast of Tuscaloosa, we have some strong stuff rolling through there, and this is going to persist through some of the night. We're getting close to, we're kind of in the final hoorah. We're counting down to the very end here. Next 4 to 6 hours are going to be pivotal as daytime heating finally dissipates and we can irradiate all that surface-based instability out of the picture. We will finally start to clear the board of a lot of our weather alerts that are ongoing right now. We'll take you in for a closer look into Ohio. I know Ohio has been the center of attention for a lot of us out there, and currently we have a number of severe thunderstorm warnings ongoing for Newark, Columbus, Lancaster is directly beneath a tornado-warned storm. We have another tornado-warned storm due east of Georgetown to the north-northwest, or I should say the west-northwest of Portsmouth, Ohio, with a couple of special weather statements in between, likely for stronger winds in excess of 40, 50 miles an hour. There you go, winds in excess of 50 miles an hour and penny-sized hail. That is going to be the song and dance, and this flash flood warning is going to be going on for at least another just underneath 2 hours. 2 hours. So we're going to keep watching this stuff very closely. Folks on YouTube, if you are joining us, welcome in. Weather Florida Man, thank you very much for moderating as spectacularly as you have been. Mick and Marley, thank you very much for tuning in. Super Charas, welcome back. How close are we? Welcome back. Don't care. Is Evansville, Indiana over with for the day? As concluded, if I have viewers stopping in on TikTok in the state of Indiana, Indiana is done. Indiana is finally far enough into the cold / you could say upper level barotropic zone, however you want to describe it. If you guys look, I'll move the camera on TikTok a little bit so you guys can see. Actually, you know what? Probably easier to pan the screen just a little bit. So we move on over to Indiana. This is exactly what we kind of debriefed earlier this afternoon. Notice we now have this little purple front right in through here with our cold boundary extending through the heart of Indiana and our warm sector moving due east across much of the eastern half of the state and through the central northern periphery of Ohio. Illinois is turned off. Indiana is officially just about turned off. We might have to watch for some very, very sporadic, isolated activity that occurs, but I really do believe Indiana is going to be a dead stick for the rest of the night. Looks like these cells that are wandering across the state border are slowly dying, and we're losing that upper level and low level influence. And in fact, if you look, we have some returns that could very well possibly be indicating a threat for maybe some snowfall wrapping through Wisconsin, parts of Iowa, definitely further into Wisconsin. We have snowfall already occurring up towards the northern half of the state. And if I zoom out and give you the big picture, there's our entire weather scenario. To the northern side of this low, we have some really good stratiform rain that's occurring into the southern Canadian provinces. All this back through here is likely to turn to snow if it isn't already producing snow. There is our triple point. We'll have to watch as this very quickly elongates. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if this is already elongating and extending further and further away from our parent low as this puppy spins up. Looks like there's a little bit of latency in this analysis. The center of circulation is directly over. Which one is that, guys? Is that Lake Michigan or Lake Superior? Which one is that? I'm not familiar too well with our Great Lakes. You know, I dork that up all the time. And then this warm sector, the warm front is all sorts of cockeyed. This is also what we had briefed earlier. If you guys look, our warm front, whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. Our warm front is very quickly getting kinked and pinched off, which is why we're seeing this acceleration in our low-level storms. The environmental steering flow is increasing in forward progress, and once these storms get into western Pennsylvania, back into West Virginia, unfortunately, I know West Virginia has seen a lot of it today. West Virginia has been hit hard, unfortunately. They had preliminary stuff from overnight, preliminary stuff during the afternoon, and now you have another wave getting ready to push into West Virginia, but we're almost done, I can promise you that. Pittsburgh, you're up next, coming up next. As long as these storms can hold together as they scrape through the southern half of Ohio, they're headed straight for you in Pennsylvania. Western Pennsylvania is going to finally start to see some of this thunderstorm activity. Same thing with western regular Virginia. We have a tornado warning getting ready to cross from Kentucky into Virginia and then eventually West Virginia. And, yeah, folks, we're getting close to the end. Well, let me take that back. Strike that, reverse it. We're not getting close to the end, but in terms of our Midwest severe weather event, we are on the back end of this. We're getting into the second half. I should say we are well within, we'll say, the third quarter for my football fans out there. Ohio is, I guess you could say, doing okay. Dayton, Ohio, I believe I saw somebody ask here in the TikTok chat. Dayton, Ohio is good to go now. You had some pretty strong stuff barrel through there earlier, that is for certain, but now it looks like you guys have punched out officially. Same thing with up in Toledo. You guys are good. Michigan, as I've mentioned previously, if I have anyone tuning in from Michigan still, nothing going on up there. Thankfully, you guys are in the cooler, more stable section of it, so nothing's going to happen. Indiana, Illinois, you guys are done. You're on the backside of it, and it looks like Western Kentucky, after everything igniting, has officially pushed on, and you're likely to not see any more significant threats. From Clarksville, Tennessee, further west, you're going to be okay. Kentucky, we are now into the central portions of the state, Lexington, and further south from that geographical location. Chattanooga, you've got a tornado warning just due west of you, and it looks to miss you to the north. And there's also a severe thunderstorm warning that's running parallel to the Tennessee, northern Mississippi border, with more action down further to the south, closing in on the Gulf coastline, which should be a bit of a precursor indication that tomorrow could get a little sporty for us down here in the southeast. Canton, Ohio, you are going to take a very close pass. I saw someone in the chat here a little bit ago on TikTok asking about Canton. It looks like you guys are a little bit further to the north of where a lot of our severe activity is going on. Luckily, again, you know, I don't want to sound like I'm gloating or anything like that, but I praise God that He's given me the ability to forecast the way that I have. It does look like the southern half of Ohio is going to be the areas directly impacted by a lot of this strong stuff. From Delaware, Westerville, Brook, you're in the YouTube chat. Westerville is good. It's all passing to the south of that area. You had some stronger stuff moving through, more like heavier rainfall, maybe some snap, crackle, pop into the lightning, but a lot of the tornadic and severe activity is off to their south-southeast. So Westerville should be good. I know during the last super outbreak, well, we won't say super outbreak, but you know what I mean, that large-scale outbreak that we covered in the early portions of March, there were definitely a lot of instances where people had to cover down. Southern Ohio is definitely in the threat right now. Dayton is done. Springfield is done. Hamilton, Cincinnati is finally done. You guys battled through it about an hour or two ago. Now this stuff is pushing east. As I've mentioned, guys, for my TikTok viewers, west to east, we are finally in the back end of it. Remember, I told you guys right around 8 p.m. is the final countdown to this stuff finally getting ready to taper off. So we have some very strong stuff moving through Newark, Zanesville, Lancaster, Circleville, Logan, Chillicothe. Athens is up next to get some stuff. New Philadelphia could possibly get some stuff. Canton, it looks to miss you to the south. Worcester, Ohio, Mansfield. I've had some people asking from Worcester, Mansfield, and Akron. You guys are a little too far to the north. And again, Cleveland, Toledo, Bowling Green, Fremont, you guys are in the clear. I really just don't think this threat is going to make it that far to the north. Our warm front was not able to advect too far to the north to bring that instability with it. And as that system continues to occlude, it's definitely going to just pinch off that unstable, that severe sector. Let's take a look down at Kentucky now. Kentucky, we are into the interior parts of the state. Frankfort, Lexington, Nicholasville, Louisville is clear. You're not going to see anything else. Louisville, you guys are in the clear. In Kentucky, you're good. Bowling Green, you're almost done. Hopkinsville, Madisonville, Owensboro, you're getting hit by the front now, so you're going to have some non-convective winds and some post-frontal winds and cold air coming in on the backside of this system, so that's going to turn your severe risk off. Same thing with Tennessee. The western half of the state, we reported midday, middle of the day, western half of Tennessee was in the direct line of fire with all this strong stuff beginning to pop off, and now it is finally concluded. Dyersburg, Blytheville, Jackson, Memphis, Tennessee, all clear. Clarksville, you were all clear. Nashville, you have another quasi-linear line coming straight towards you. Same with Franklin, Columbia. Looks like there's a severe thunderstorm passing right through Corinth, Mississippi, trying to come across the Tennessee border, moving in a very eastward fashion with a little bit of a northward bias there. Looks like it's going to pass Florence, Decatur, and Huntsville in Alabama to the north. And to the northeast of Huntsville, as a matter of fact, about 30 degrees north latitude is where, well, not latitude, but 30-degree direction from Huntsville, you have a tornado warning ongoing in south central Tennessee. Knoxville, Harriman, Morristown, Newport, you don't have anything in the immediate horizon just yet. It looks like a lot of our severe activity has blended and merged together into heavy rainfall, so you'll have to watch for some localized urban flooding, ponding on the roadways, of course, and major intersections in your local area, so be cognizant of that. Looks like, a large majority of our severe weather is still ongoing, but it is grouped up pretty substantially. Now it is more linear in fashion. I'll go ahead and draw it for you guys. Let me pan the camera over just a little bit more so TikTok can see it. I have to give it a bit of a leftward bias on the screen. For my YouTube viewers, I apologize. As you guys can see now, we are now in this quadrant of severe weather. It has finally kind of clustered together. And this is where all this stuff is just going to continue to pump off to the east. And I'll go ahead and pan down slowly towards the southeast and kind of use this marker that I've drawn as a bit of a placemat or a placeholder. And this is also what we're going to have to watch once the sun can come up and we can resurge all that instability in warm air. Because if you guys remember that Theta E overlay I showed you earlier, we are slowly but surely getting the northernmost warm sector, that severe sector closest to our parent low, is getting pinched off. So eventually up to the north, that northern mode is going to shut down. Those storms are going to get suffocated and we aren't going to see too much more severe action, probably by around midnight. Midnight to 1 a.m. is when I think we're finally going to see things up there in Ohio, Kentucky, really begin to taper off. So you guys have a few more hours, about 4 more hours to go, give or take, depending on how much of this stuff rains itself out. And then up next, we have the Carolinas, Georgia, Alabama is going to continue to see some stuff overnight tonight. We could see some stronger storms develop as this thing begins to enhance off of the warm advection that's occurring out of our good old Gulf of Mexico that's very hot, which we'll talk about towards the back end of this live stream. This is your overall perspective, though, folks. I'll really take a zoomed-out perspective so you guys can see exactly what's happening. We have a lot of really good activity going on in the southern half of Ohio, so that forecast has verified wonderfully. In fact, it looks like nope, that's the same tornado warning, excuse me. We do have, it looks like, a new severe thunderstorm warning in southern Ohio and a extension of a tornado warning into extreme western Kentucky, still trying to propagate into western Virginia, not West Virginia. St. Louis, Missouri, if you're in Missouri, folks, if you're in Missouri, Arkansas, Illinois, Indiana, like I said at the start of this brief, you guys are good. You're done. Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania here within the next hour or two. You guys are the ones that need to continue to monitor and watch closely as this stuff moves through. Kentucky and Tennessee, you guys have a little bit longer to go. Ohio, you're about halfway through to the finish line. Anywhere further to the west is shut down at this point. We have too much cold air wrapping around our deep and rapidly occluding low pressure system as it continues to pull into the cold sector of the jet. So that cold air is only going to continue to further stabilize and what's called subsidize the mid to low levels of the atmosphere as it slowly pulls in around the low. So right now we're doing okay. We're getting that warm sector to pinch off. That's why it has taken on a more broad but linear fashion on the radar imagery here. Twilight Firefly, good evening. Can you look at wind shear on attic radar? What is attic radar? Are you asking that about me? Or are you asking that how close are we? Kirsty Cotton, Zenful, welcome in. Let's see, who else? Columbus Weatherman. Is Columbus, Ohio done? Columbus, Ohio. I got to remember where that even is. Let me zoom in. I really got to brush up on my 15th OWS. Yes, Columbus is wrapping up right now. You have a severe thunderstorm warning for your area, but a lot of the main activity on radar is off to your south and east, just outside of city limits. And then you have 2 active tornado warnings just outside of Newark, right over top of Lancaster to the northeast of Chillicothe. headed towards Wheeling. Could still see some further ignition and some strengthening of these thunderstorms as they continue off towards the east-northeast. Like I mentioned earlier, biggest geographic location is Pittsburgh in extreme western Pennsylvania, and that looks to be what's next in line over the next hour or so as these systems continue to move off to the east. Can we send the rest to Washington, D.C. in line with the White House? No comment, Chicken Plucker, but you know what? I can understand where that's coming from. Let's see. Chillicothe. There we go. Thank you. All right, don't laugh. Don't laugh at the pronunciation. I'm a Floridian by heart, okay? So obviously I'm doing my best with the pronunciation, but I do appreciate the corrections. That's how we learn. By the way, if you guys can't see, I wasn't joking earlier when I did that mid-afternoon briefing. I'm still sipping caffeine trying to get through this. I know I shouldn't be because I'm going to be ready for bed shortly after this, but dang, it's been a long and busy day. Silver Steel S, thank you very, very kindly. Extreme thanks to you for the $10 donation on the YouTube live stream. Extremely gracious on your part. I do appreciate Chris Mazzell. Thank you very much for joining us. So yeah, guys, what do we have in terms of questions? Lexington, Kentucky is almost done. You have one or two more small areas that you have to battle through. No severe weather warnings in the immediate upstream vicinity of your area. Cleveland, Ohio is, yes, Cleveland, Ohio, you're too far to the north. Cleveland, Ohio, you're not going to see very much going on. Northeast Tennessee, Johnson City. Johnson City, I see you still have a little ways to go before this severe action gets into your area, and a lot of the stuff that's occurring to your west near Tusculum, Newport, Knoxville is more so just heavy rainfall. I don't really see anything concerning on radar, so you guys in Johnson City just might luck out. We might not see too much before the sun really cools down, or not the sun, but the surface really cools down, and we stabilize for the overnight hours. Upshur County, West Virginia. So West Virginia, you're going to have to watch closely as this stuff comes in out of Kentucky and southern Ohio. You're likely to see the west side of the state from Charleston north and Charleston south. And Parkersburg, you're likely to see some of this stuff bleed over. New severe thunderstorm warning in eastern Ohio, just to the northwest, west-northwest of Wheeling, Ohio. And or unless that's Wheeling, Pennsylvania. It's right on the state line right there. And then Canton, southeast of Canton. Still too far to the south to present a credible threat for Canton. You could see some outflow winds. Same thing with Akron. What do you mean, PM? Anything else to talk about? We have a lot to talk about. We're just trying to get everyone up to speed, and I have a lot of folks watching on TikTok right now. We have about 700 people watching, and I'm trying to get as many questions in as possible before we continue the briefing. Folks, we are about 17 minutes into the brief. Here in about 5 more minutes, we're going to transition through and start talking about what's coming, what tomorrow looks like, okay? So for my interests in Ohio, for my viewers out there in Ohio, everything still stands. Our forecast is doing wonderfully. Southern half of the state, now to the east of Columbus, to the east of Newark, and just off to the east of Lancaster. In fact, it might be right over top Lancaster right now. We have a tornado-warned storm. Tornado-warned storm to the east of Newark, just due south of Chillicothe. And to the north of Portsmouth, we have another tornado-warned storm. 3 tornado warnings active in southern half of Ohio, currently kind of in line with one another, running parallel to each other. We have another tornado warning that is still continuing on as it moves into the western portion of Virginia. Not West Virginia, bona fide regular old Virginia. And we have a new thunderstorm warning that's in the eastern half of Ohio, small eastern half of Ohio, just to the west-northwest of Wheeling. And this is going to persist for a few more hours. I want to give it 3 to 4 more hours max, and then things will finally start to quiet down in Ohio. Your threat will be finished. And same thing with Kentucky. 3 to 4 more hours as we get closer to the midnight hour. We're going to start to see things cap off, shut down. So we got to ride this out for a little bit yet. I do have my screen up on TikTok, but I'm not able to stream simultaneously, unfortunately. So that's kind of why I'm bouncing back and forth. I hope you guys on YouTube can still hear me okay. That's why I'm leaning back, because I have my phone camera here streaming off of TikTok at the same time. For my TikTok viewers, I apologize that I'm going back and forth. Pittsburgh, if you're just tuning in right now, you're coming up next. You have a severe thunderstorm just immediately off to your east-south, or west-southwest, excuse me, that's about maybe 45 minutes to an hour away from knocking on the doorstep of the city limits, and you also have that tornadic activity just shortly upstream of that, or back behind that, headed in your general direction. So within the next hour, hour and a half, buckle up, because it looks like you're going to have the worst of it right over overhead before it finally dissipates, because you're right on the threshold of that stationary boundary. And as this stuff gets closer to the cutoff between our warm and cold pockets around this low pressure system, that's when these storms are going to choke themselves out and they're going to be asphyxiated, and they're really not going to be able to continue to self-sustain. So we're getting into the south and southeast quadrant of Ohio. If you split it into thirds, if you split it into, I should say not thirds, but fourths, if you cut the state into fourths like so, it's the southern half and the southern southeastern half where all your severe thunderstorm activity is currently going on. The northwest, the northern half to its entirety, this whole area here checks out. You guys are doing pretty good. I don't really expect there's going to be a lot of nocturnal development up that far to the north. We're getting too close to our occluded front, and a lot of the cold air that's mixing in around the center of that low as it goes barotropic or uniform in its temperature discontinuity. The western side of Ohio is just about done as well. Dayton, Columbus, Springfield, Bellefontaine. Can't really see it underneath my ink drawing here, but the western half of Ohio is good to go. Indiana is clear and closed for business. Illinois is clear and closed for business. And Michigan, again, dead stick. We're not going to see any severe or significant activity up there. All right, let's go ahead and start getting into the briefing portion of this, shall we? So this is, let me see if I can open this up. There we go. All right, so this is where we stand right now on the satellite imagery. I'll go ahead and move my camera over so you guys can see on TikTok as well. So we have a huge area of good old jet energy digging across the southern and central portions of the United States, and I'll pause it right there so we can go ahead and do a little bit of synoptic analysis. Thanks for my YouTube viewers for hanging tight while I try to answer questions on TikTok. TikTok viewers, thank you very much for your generosity and your support and the understanding, and that I have to go bounce back and forth from the briefs. If you have the means to do so on TikTok as well, feel free to jump on over to YouTube. I will see your comments a lot quicker. Just throwing that little tidbit out there. If you have the means of leaving TikTok and coming over to my YouTube channel, Weather Center Nazario, I will see your comments a little bit faster, and I can simultaneously present to you what I'm briefing as well. So if you feel the desire or want to, Seawolf, Upper Peninsula, Michigan, nothing. In fact, you're looking at more wintry effects. Miranda, we're going to get into Georgia here in a moment for my southeast and my east coast folks. We're going to start getting into that stuff now, and then I'll take questions towards the back end before we shift into tropics talk. So, this is where we stand now. Here is our occluding system right here. So all these cooler, or I should say almost warmer cloud tops right up in over parts of Wisconsin, Minnesota, the upper half, as someone just asked on TikTok, of the Michigan Peninsula and over the Great Lakes. This is all your stable air, your cold air getting pulled in out of Canada. So this is actually going to be a heavy snow threat. We're very quickly going to have to shift gears from severe weather mode to heavy snow, almost blizzard mode across the northern tier, the northern plains, the upper Great Lakes region, before this can boil back down into the Midwest. This is going to be your severe weather quadrant right in through here. You guys can see it wonderfully on the infrared satellite. This is where our strongest thunderstorm activity is currently. Our polar front jet, if I had to draw it in for you guys, is dipped south like so, cutting right through our comma feature here. This is your comma cloud, the comma head, the deformation zone where all your diffluent flow is out ahead of it for the, just to give you guys a little bit of a brief glimpse of meteorological terminology. And then we have the comma tail that extends all the way into the Gulf of Mexico through Louisiana and the Gulf Coast states. This is going to be our El Nino jet, guys. This is the one kicker here for my viewers down in the southeast that has me a little more concerned about what could possibly be going on for us in the southeast tomorrow. The fact that we still do have El Nino kicking for at least another couple of weeks before he finally dies off and gives way to our neutral and eventually our La Nina that's going to get things spicy for the hurricane season. So now, as this system pulls back into the cold air, as our parent low pulls back this way, what we're watching for right in this quadrant of this cloud shield, we'll call it, is a second low developing and moving off towards the east-northeast, towards more or less Manhattan Island, Jersey, the eastern half of Pennsylvania, southern New York State. Because what that's going to do is help to reinvigorate our atmospheric dynamics that could help to produce some more bona fide El Nino-style thunderstorm activity that will occur along the mid-Atlantic coast, the eastern halves of North Carolina, South Carolina, maybe trying to get back into eastern Virginia. Not West Virginia, but actual Virginia once again, 10%, and then the Florida northern half of the peninsula, central Florida, right around the attractions area. So that's kind of what we're watching for closely. We take a look at Weather Prediction Center, and you go to 12Z tomorrow, and they're also seeing it as well. Let me move over a little bit for my TikTok viewers. Columbus, Ohio, I think you guys are good. Jessica, Columbus, Ohio, and Rosie, it looks like you're asking at the same time. Glad I looked over. You guys are in the clear. Don't worry too much about Columbus right now. I don't really think we're going to see anything really upstream of that area. Columbus and further to the west of Columbus should be good to go. This is what we're going to have to keep a close eye on. This is as this system really rapidly pulls back into the colder. Look at all this heavy snow. In fact, for my viewers up there in Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio for that matter, we're really going to have to rapidly shift gears and shift gears quick. We're going to have wintry impacts coming around the backside of this deep occluded low. Your non-convective winds are going to kick up. The snowfall is likely to increase, especially as more of that cold air gets pulled on the west and southwest side of this storm. And any kind of residual moisture is going to help to increase the probability of icing, if not at least frost at the very minimum, as freezing temps wrap around the backside. Luna Whitney, where are you out of? Can things pick up tonight? Where are you looking? Passing over PGH. What is PGH? Please let me know what that is. Jackson County, Ohio, Shanetti, where is Jackson County specifically? J2 Ace, Atlanta tonight. We're going to deep dive into that here momentarily, but Atlanta does have a shot at some possible strong storms. That's how we're going to describe it. Let's go ahead and switch on over to some model data, start to dissect it a little bit. I'll move over to the Eastern CONUS view. This is where we are at now. This is our 18Z model run. This is 0Z, valid for 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. CST, and you could see all these linear storms piling up. And in fact, the NAM nest, the 3-kilometer NAM, is not verifying as well as we would like to see, because this model has this system barely occluding, with the occlusion pushing into Michigan. And I don't believe that's what's actually happening. I do believe that this system is occluding a little bit faster, probably have our purple front dangling through Indiana and northern Ohio, which is why our storms are staying to the southern half of the state. I'll move this over so you guys can see. Weather Florida Man, can you look up Inez or Inez, Kentucky, please? I'm having a hard time but looking that up while I'm going through the briefing right now. Could you give me a little bit of a heads up as to what's going on? PGH, Pittsburgh. Okay, thank you, Melissa. I appreciate that. Pittsburgh, for our folks asking on TikTok as well. Pittsburgh, you guys have a threat coming at you in the next hour and a half, and then that'll slowly vacate the premises as it runs into that more stable air on the other side or the opposite end of that stationary front that we highlighted earlier. All right, so gonna go ahead and just keep plugging along and explaining things. As we get into tomorrow, especially for my folks asking about Atlanta, if you guys look, the NAM 3-kilometer, as we get closer to the middle portions of the overnight hours, we'll say, very early morning between midnight and 3 a.m., that's when Atlanta is potentially under the gun for seeing some strong storms moving through there. Same thing with the Carolinas. It looks like Mississippi and Alabama at this point are going to be just about turned off as well. Not too much happening there. And then the Florida Peninsula, or not the Florida Peninsula, but the Panhandle in the northern half of the peninsula is going to come alive, and we're going to start to see this threat boil back down to the south. And then notice how as that low pressure spins up over Virginia, look at how we get some really good enhancement with our thunderstorm activity, not only along the coast, towards the middle portions of the day, right in through here in the Carolinas, eastern Virginia, the coastline of eastern Virginia, and then through the Florida Peninsula as well. I really do think we need to maintain a very vigilant level of situational awareness in the Florida Peninsula as well. If I switch over to our surface-based Cape, look at that. We get a nice rebound in our Cape values during the daytime. So it kind of tapers off. We get a little bit of that leftover Cape still getting pulled in that warm sector that's getting pinched off by our occluding front and our developing secondary low over the Virginias and the Carolinas. And then notice how max heating of the day, this is 12 p.m., 1 p.m., 2 p.m., our Cape, at least according to the NAM, goes up pretty high, not only for the eastern seaboard, the mid-Atlantic states, Virginia, North and South Carolina, but especially through northern Florida, pretty much running right along I-4 off to the Interstate 95 and the 60 off on close to the west coast. And then if you guys look up over the Midwest, there are some remnants of leftover Cape. That is that cold core convection that I had mentioned, that cold core garden variety random but scarce thunderstorm activity that could pop off as this low just continues to spin and spin and spin and attempt to destabilize the atmosphere. So Florida, we might have to pay a little bit more close attention than we'd initially expected. If I switch over to 850 millibar winds, very, very, very wonderful shear component. Very good low-level jet, moving right up the eastern seaboard to our secondary low, and that's because of the development that's going on. And then really good post-frontal winds as well, too. This is not necessarily a low-level jet that's back over the southern plains and Dixie Alley. This is your cold air funneling back into it. We have really good mid-level winds helping to funnel that cold air on the west and west-southwest quadrant of our mature wave up over the Great Lakes and the lower, the upper Midwest, the lower Great Lakes. We will go ahead and shift gears over to College of DuPage. I wanted us to take a look at the wrap. We haven't really given the wrap a lot of credit, and I want to take advantage of taking a look at that now. This is one of the models that SPC tends to look at quite often when doing their severe weather forecasts, and the wrap doesn't have a bad track record. We'll go ahead and cross-reference the surface-based CAPE because I know that earlier when I was digesting it on shift in between phone calls, there were definitely some very impressive values that popped up down over the south. So as we go over the early morning hours of tomorrow, notice that central Georgia, South Carolina is still going to be hanging out under about 600 to 800 joules per kilogram of uncapped CAPE. That is that warm sector that's getting pulled up. And what's phenomenal about this, guys, if you tuned in for my midday brief, this wrap convective available, or this wrap CAPE model, does a fantastic job of really illustrating what it is that we discussed earlier about the northern half or the northern mode, however you want to describe it, really getting pinched off. And notice how this area completely subsides and we're done as we get into the very early morning hours of tomorrow morning between 2 to 4 a.m. CST. Ohio, Kentucky, most of northern and western Tennessee is going to shut down. Same thing with West Virginia. And then it looks like our CAPE rebounds to the south, and we get that reinvigoration as that low pressure system gets going over Virginia, pushing off the mid-Atlantic coastline. And then look at central Florida. Look at these CAPE values pushing 2,000 joules per kilogram. There you go, right there. 2,000 joules per kilogram in central Florida with some pretty decent wind shear. If I go to 925, even looking at the winds down in that area for tomorrow afternoon, notice that even at 925, we have 30, 40 knots, 50 knots just off the Jacksonville coastline of really good wind shear that could help to really intensify these storms. So we have very good vertical wind shear all the way down within the last couple thousand feet of the atmosphere. And that's what we need to watch for. Pittsburgh is not in the clear. Pittsburgh is coming up next. For my folks in TikTok still asking about Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, you have about an hour, hour and a half before the stuff that's affecting the southern half of Ohio comes knocking on your doorstep. Currently, for my viewers in Ohio, the southern half and the southeast quadrant, if you were to split it into fours, southeast Ohio is currently under the threshold for the strongest stuff. But right now we're into the portion of the brief where we're going to talk about what day 3, or now I should say day 2, almost day 1 at this point, is going to look like. And what has me a little concerned about Florida as well and our eastern coastline, that's not what I wanted. If you look in the mid-levels, we have very, very, very good dry air intrusion on the backside of all these storms. So what that tells me is in the mid-levels of the environment between about 5,000 to 10,000 feet, we could have a little bit of that drying if we were to look at our skew-Ts, and that's going to help to intensify our threat for convective winds. So definitely 55, 60-mile-an-hour winds are on the table for people in the Carolinas, Georgia, southern Georgia, I should say, and central and northern Florida tomorrow. We definitely have a possibility of seeing some strong storms barreling through the southeast as well. If I were to switch over to our significant tornado parameters, they're still going to be ongoing and eventually very quickly cap off as we get into the early morning hours. And notice how they bump back up for central and northern Florida, particularly near the Jacksonville area and in the Carolinas and eastern Virginia. So eastern Virginia is definitely going to have to watch even for tomorrow. We are not done yet in eastern Virginia. West Virginia, the whole state is going to be okay. You guys are going to be clearing out very soon. It's Virginia State in the eastern side, getting closer to the Atlantic coast, is going to have to monitor very closely. Supercell parameters look very, very favorable in through Georgia, the Carolinas, and especially, again, central Florida near Jacksonville, Daytona Beach. Jacksonville, Daytona Beach, right up along the East Coast. We're going to have to watch for some potential waterspout activity, some potential inland funnel cloud activity, very strong winds, and that likelihood of damaging hail. Let's see, what else can we talk about? And then we'll come on over to our long-range GFS and just kind of tie everything into a nice bundle. This system is going to be kicking out very soon. This is 6Z, 2 a.m. in the morning. This is when I do believe everything is going to start quieting down for my folks in western Pennsylvania, eastern and southeastern Ohio. Kentucky is going to start to trend down. And then, of course, when we wake up tomorrow morning around 8 a.m. or whenever you guys wake up, things are really going to start to calm down. And that thread is going to shift down towards the southeast and the mid-Atlantic. So from East Virginia through the Carolinas, the remainder of Georgia, and then Florida naturally. That's kind of what I have for you guys. We'll go back to the radar and kind of start wrapping up this segment of the brief. Let me see. Doesn't look like we have any new tornado warnings and we have a couple new severe thunderstorm warnings, it looks like, into extreme eastern Kentucky. Central Kentucky has a new severe thunderstorm warning. And Tennessee looks like it's really starting to quiet down as well. We have that one final line that's getting ready to push into Nashville, but the severe thunderstorm warning has been discontinued for that, which is good news. We still have a special weather statement headed towards Nashville. And, yeah. So, again, I would say this was a, quality forecast, to say the least. And I'm not going to take 100% of the credit. I was listening into some of the other big names in meteorology, what their thoughts on this severe weather event could look like. And of course, naturally, I've been trying to fill in the gaps, looking at as much model data as I possibly can as we go throughout the day today and yesterday and leading up to this. And I would say that we did a fairly decent job of, let me see if I can, yeah, there we go. I'm going to go ahead and place you guys in this view so I can talk to you guys on TikTok, and I'll kind of leave the screen up in the background. If you guys have questions, I can transition over to it. There we go. Rhode Island, you're probably not going to get any severe action. You're going to get some winds and some pretty good rainfall, but the severe action is going to get pinched off to the south. That's why I'd mentioned a little bit ago, Mid-Atlantic from East Virginia and south through to Florida and the Gulf coastline is where your threat's going to be. But we're almost done, folks, and truthfully, I would say, I can humbly say, we did a pretty decent job at this forecast. We didn't see anything in the northern halves of Illinois, Indiana, or Ohio. And both YouTube and on TikTok, you guys can go fact check me. I'd mentioned, if you want to watch and pay attention to this stuff, southern halves of these states and then through the western halves of Kentucky, Tennessee, and etc. throughout the day today into overnight hours of tonight. So we did a pretty solid job. Let's go ahead and open it up to questions for now. We are almost 40 minutes into the live stream, and then we're going to go ahead and transition to tropics. So ask questions now or forever hold your peace. And if you want to bow out for our tropics discussion, for my TikTok viewers, it's a tradition here on YouTube. So if you don't want to tune in for that, no offense taken whatsoever. If you do want to look and see what the thoughts are on the tropics and our latest climo data, feel free to stay in the chat, and we'll go from there. Crossville, Tennessee. Where is Crossville? Is it eastern half of the state or west side? Because west side of Tennessee is calming down. In fact, the east side of the state really doesn't have a whole lot going on either. Knoxville is quiet. Chattanooga is quiet. We just have some heavy rainfall. I should say moderate to heavy rainfall that's going on through there right now. We have one special weather statement for the entire Tennessee area right now, and it's going to be very low chance that we see any really big development right now. Weather Florida man, where is Uniontown, Ohio? Can you give me a very quick update on Uniontown? I have somebody in TikTok who is very fervently asking about Uniontown right now. Georgia is not safe. We still have to ride out the rest of this severe event. Georgia is likely to start to see stuff getting kicked off closer to 10 p.m. and a little bit forward in that point there on. And then southern half of Georgia, southeast Georgia, as we wake up tomorrow and go through the first half of tomorrow is when our severe weather event is likely to continue ongoing for us down there, or at least our moderate level event. Can I? Let me take a look. Let me see if I can search it. You might be right. If you are, then that's going to be clutch as heck. Uniontown, Ohio. Let's see, is it one word? I believe this is it. There we go. All right, so good call. How close are we? Thank you very much for that. So Uniontown, Ohio, we've got stuff To your west, you're definitely going to have to batten down the hatches and maintain a watchful eye because there are 2 active tornado warnings pointed straight at you and a long slew of severe thunderstorm warnings just off to your east. You have about 30 to 45 minutes before it's approaching your back door. So definitely keep your eyes open. You're not done yet. After that blows through, after that can get through your area, you'll be good to go. You'll definitely be good to go. Amanda Kirby, welcome in. You're just in time. Will Orlando have possible tornadoes or hail? I would say the potential for both are on the table, but it's not going to be anything spectacular, Isaac Logan. It's not going to be like a high-end, enhanced, or moderate risk, but the threat is definitely there, especially for hail and strong winds. The tornado risk, I do think, is a little higher than what a lot of our official sources have led on to, just because of the wonderful shear component and the high level of winds we have all the way down to 925. Vertical shear component is definitely there, as is the buoyancy. We're getting close to 2,000 joules per kilogram. So I would say all threats, just as Weather Florida Man has mentioned, are on the table. Central Florida looking tomorrow like the Melbourne area. Tomorrow afternoon is going to get fairly sporty for us. Strong winds, potential for hail, potential for isolated funnel cloud activity, CWTDF, are definitely on the table. We were just talking about that a moment ago. Dynamics are looking fairly favorable. Is it hitting downtown Cleveland? Cleveland? No. Cleveland is in the clear. You're just too far to the north to realize these threats. Southern half of the state is what's going to be getting hit right now. Taylor, Springfield, Ohio is good to go. You're on the backside of this stuff. I don't foresee any major development upstream of you. So Springfield, you're good to go. Columbus is good to go. Bellefontaine is good to go. Dayton, Ohio. Cincinnati, you're done. The western half of the state is done. We're getting into the last eastern half of Ohio. Canton, Alliance, Youngstown, Akron, and Cleveland are going to be in the clear. That stuff is just too far to your south. We have active tornado warning still in effect east of Newark, headed towards Uniontown. Madison, Wisconsin, you're going to be under a snow threat, a wintry threat, if anything, if you're up in Wisconsin. Greenville, Pennsylvania. Let me see. Let me go ahead and search that real quick. Greenville, Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania. Let's take a look. So Greenville is right up there on the northwest border. Nope, Greenville, I think you're going to be good. We don't have anything in your direct upstream path or basically headed towards you in the near vicinity, and you're north of where our warm front is, more in the stable sector of this entire setup, if you will. So nope, I would think your area is going to be okay. Georgia, we're coming up next. Georgia, Florida, southern Alabama, we're going to be going into the first hours of tomorrow. And when I say that, I mean from 11 p.m. through to about 3 a.m. is our nocturnal threat. Things are going to quiet down, and then we're going to back build tomorrow. Tomorrow, from the first half of the day towards the lunch hour, is when we're going to really reinvigorate the environment. And then max heating of the afternoon is when things are going to get very exciting. Could get very exciting, for lack of a better term, for eastern North Carolina, South Carolina, eastern, extreme eastern, almost coastal Virginia, and central Florida near the attraction. So if I have any tourists out there who are tuning in, who are here in Florida, we'll have to watch our butts tomorrow and hold on to our hats because it could get a little windy. All right, so let's see. Oh, there we go. We got another tornado warning. New tornado warning just to the west of Big Stone Gap. Over Harlan, Kentucky, headed towards Cumberland. We got another tornado warning that just activated, that just went off. This is extreme eastern Kentucky, away from very, very populated areas. More rural Kentucky, it looks like, up in the mountains almost. We're getting into the higher terrain features. Isabel, welcome in. Felicity, Ohio. Let's see where you are in Felicity. For folks who are watching as well, I'll turn the camera just a little bit. That's what we got going on in Ohio. We got a nice mess in the southeast side of Ohio. Pushing through Zanesville, headed towards, or kind of riding that I-70 corridor. We're right on the interstate here. 70 headed towards Wheeling, Moundsville, Powhatan, Point, Barnesville, Byesville, Cambridge, and Zanesville's getting pummeled by this stuff right now. Same thing with Crooksville and New Lexington. This is going to be what I think is going to be ending the entire scenario. Upstream of this, the atmosphere is going to be tapped. We're not going to see a whole lot of resurgence, and because we don't have the sun up, we're just not going to have that thunderstorm activity fire back up. So if you're back behind this area, you're pretty much in the clear. You're calming down now. Anything new down over the south? Alabama's getting some stuff moving through the I-20 through 59 corridor, that's for sure, just to the southwest of Tuscaloosa, headed towards Tuscaloosa, as a matter of fact, some moderate level thunderstorm activity. All right. Let's do it. We're going to go ahead and shift gears. For my folks in TikTok, please feel free to leave me a comment on my most recent post or my previous post. Feel free to drop me a private message. I will get back to you no matter what. I will always answer. I make it a point to answer everybody who has questions or comments or concerns. And we will go ahead and get back to you. I'll take a couple more suggestions. We're at the 45-minute mark. I got to dive into tropics talk here in a moment. We got someone spamming Cadiz, Ohio, so we're going to look at Cadiz. If there's nothing going on, I'm going to be mad. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. So Cadiz, however you pronounce that, definitely batten down, lock up, stay away from windows, because your tornado warning is going to come towards you in about another 30, 45 minutes. It expires in 45 minutes with 1-inch hail in the core of this system. So Cadiz, you're going to have a very close shave from this tornado-warned storm that's just off to your west-southwest. Columbus, Ohio is clear. Yes, Columbus is good to go. Columbus is good to go. And Ohio actually has been getting the worst of it. They're definitely getting the worst of it. And our forecast has been doing very good. Southern half of the state has definitely been getting lit up. Lots of severe thunderstorm warnings, lots of tornado warnings. We have currently 2 active. We just lost one. One tornado warning was thankfully discontinued. The one that moved through Lancaster. Looks like that storm is weakening. We have 2 active tornado warnings in the southern half and the eastern side of Ohio. So, yeah, Columbus has definitely been getting the worst of it, but we can't discount Kentucky. Kentucky's also been getting slammed today. Lots of heavy rainfall, probably frequent cloud to ground and in-cloud lightning, and they have an active tornado warning that's still in effect along the eastern border or the southeast border of Kentucky. Florida Panhandle tonight is not going to see too much. Florida Panhandle still has yet to activate. We got nothing going on down there. I would say give it another 2 to 3 hours, and Florida Panhandle is going to start finally happening. And then especially as we get into the day tomorrow, Sunrise, Tallahassee, the Big Bend area, and into northern Florida, Gainesville, Jacksonville, Daytona Beach is finally when we're going to start getting into it. But, all right, got to go ahead and switch gears. I do apologize. I'm running out of time. So we're going to go ahead and switch on over, guys. Let's do this. Again, if you guys want to stick around on TikTok, feel free to do so. I'd love to have you because that's exactly where this page and my weather channel is going. But we're going to go ahead and shift gears and we'll talk huge tornado in Wellsville, Ohio. Houses are gone. Oh, Lord. Wow. North Carolina is okay right now. Isabel, North Carolina, not much is going on right now. I've heard that there have been some very, very substantial reported tornadoes. I asked about Hurricane West Virginia. Is that an actual city? Terra? Hurricane West Virginia? Well, I had mentioned that West Virginia has stuff coming in right now, that's for sure. Let's go ahead and take a look at that one last time, because you'd mentioned that Hurricane West Virginia. Let's see what we got going on. That's ironic. So yeah, Hurricane West Virginia, you've got some heavy rain coming towards you, but nothing on the immediate vicinity that is warned or special weather statement right now. So truthfully, I would just prepare for a little bit of thunder and lightning and some moderate to heavy rainfall. Could help to induce some puddling and some localized pooling on roadways and in your neighborhood potentially. I don't know the geography of that area, but just off to your immediate west, here in the next 20 minutes or so, you're going to have some rain picking up. The intensity of the rain is definitely going to go up, but I don't see anything right now that shows a very, very prevalent threat that you need to prepare for or monitor. It looks like a lot of the severe weather action has dissipated and nothing is warned currently. And in Terra, I would think a tornado watch until 2 a.m. You're probably under a tornado watch currently. We'll have to continue to watch the stuff that's moving through Lexington, Kentucky that has the potential of trying to spin back up, get a special weather statement or a severe warning on it. But in the immediate upstream, nothing too bad. Nothing too bad, at least nothing that's headed in your direction. All right. Now, again, please, TikTok, leave me some comments, leave me some direct messages, hit me up, follow me on YouTube. Come on over to YouTube. I mean, not follow me, but I mean, I'd love if you subscribed. Yeah, come on over. But we're moving in. We're going to go tropics. We have to. And then I'll get back to you guys here in a moment. So, here we go. This is the main event. We're going to look at our CANSIPs. Spoiler alert, whoops. So first and foremost, I wanted to show you guys this. This has been particularly concerning. Definitely particularly concerning. This is our latest CFS model for the rest of the year. And we are now, CFS anyways, is trying to push us into a strong La Nina. This is something I discovered, I want to say about a week ago on the old tweeter, the X. I noticed that one of the meteorologists I follow on there had mentioned that the CFS is looking more and more troublesome, especially as we get in towards peak hurricane season and the back end of hurricane season. But we have definitely seen this trend further and further down to the south. And I don't mean literally to the south, but I mean we're just getting into cold temps. If you look at this dashed line, wow, okay. Let me not look like a seismometer drawing a line. If you look at this dashed line right through here, that's the general average. That's the mean of what our anomalies could possibly do. And if you come on over to the left-hand side of the chart, that is strong La Nina territory. And if you take a look at this, a lot of our ensembles are going outside of the chart threshold below -3 degrees anomaly. As we get towards the Halloween time and the turn of the new year, which means our winter time, not only our tropical season, but our winter time is going to get very, very boisterous. Winter time is going to be a complete night and day difference between what it is right now. We're not going to have a subtropical jet. We're not going to have a south and southeast tornado threat. We're going to be fairly dry here in the south and the southeast for this next upcoming winter. So get the severe weather and the heavy rain out of your system. That's if this verifies. That's if this verifies. I'm glad that you added the disclaimer in there, PM, that it's not absolute, because I was going to say we've seen some strong La Ninas and we've still gotten hit. And I do think that west coast and southwest coast of Florida is going to need to watch very closely this hurricane season. So I thought this is very interesting. This is going to be, again, a more, I guess you can say, refined version. This is our seasonal outlook. And once again, going strong La Nina, there's our average below the -2 degree line. And a lot of our models, even for the seasonal outlook, as we go past into 2025, we have La Nina sticking around. So we might have a 1-2 punch. We have to really watch closely as we make the transition. That's what's going to be interesting, and that's why my gut tells me August is going to be Florida's month. This is June, July, August, September, October, and we'll be in that weak to moderate phase of the La Nina as we punch into the peak of the hurricane season. So I think that's a little concerning. I do think as we go through the peak, we're going to have optimal alignment of a lot of our environmental dynamics in the Atlantic, across the Atlantic, the North, Central, and South Atlantic, that could really disturb the peace and drive some storms right up into the Mid-Atlantic coast, the Florida coastline. Our Caribbean viewers out there are definitely going to need to watch closely. 100%. And to answer your question on TikTok, I don't know specifically for Louisiana, but I do believe that the threat is definitely going to be fairly strong for the Gulf Coast, period. Let me go ahead and flip the camera so we can change the perspective. There we go, so you guys can see. I'll let you look at the chair and my workstation in the background on a small camera view. Let me see, what was it? Oh, yeah, let's go over to tropical tidbits again really quick, and I want to pull up our surface analysis of the ocean, because that's also going to be very telling. First and foremost, if you come over to our 1.2, we are into a weak La Nina in the 1 and 2 Enzo region. We're trying to warm up a little bit, but we're down below -5 degrees anomaly, so we are into that cool, weak La Nina in the easternmost Pacific. 4 is holding steady, 3 is holding steady, and 3.4 is trying to climb back up because of the westerlies that we have going on across the Pacific, keeping that warm air smothered over the east and central Pacific. But notice all this cooling that's just continuing to occur off the South American coastline. And I will openly admit that the Atlantic is starting to look more and more concerning to a lot of our tropical analysts out there, because if you look, let me go ahead and change the region. We'll go to North Atlantic and we'll zoom in. This is very, very unfavorable for keeping storms away and having a lackluster, not so exciting hurricane season. And I've been watching a lot of other videos out there. Mark Sudduth, wonderful source. Been watching a lot of the other meteorological sources that I've discovered on X, Twitter, and following their YouTube channels as well. And what's very alarming about this is the fact that our tropical region specifically is hot. But then notice our mid-latitudes and our subtropics are markedly cooler than everything else. We have almost like a little smiley face going on here with our warm and cold anomalies, and that's not good. Not good whatsoever, because I'll tell you now, what that means is we're going to have our subtropical, our surface high pressure here could become very elongated over these cooler anomalies. And what that means is Caribbean is going to be target practice for these systems. Bahamas is going to be target practice for these systems. The Carolinas could potentially be target practice, and the Gulf of Mexico is definitely going to be a bit more of a hot zone than we saw close to anything last year. Last year, El Nino was our saving grace. It kept things way out into the Atlantic, and that steering flow just was not optimal at all to get storms into the Caribbean, into the Gulf of Mexico, outside of Idalia, who was the one lone survivor who managed to escape through the subtropical influence of El Nino and get into the southeast United States. So this is that we have to, I'm not even really paying too much attention to the tropics anymore. The tropics are hot, period. I'm watching all this. And the fact that we now have cooling going on up over the North Atlantic tells me that we could just very possibly see dominating high pressure for much of the Atlantic hurricane season, which is definitely not a good sign. Not a good sign at all whatsoever. This also is going to help to favor tropical development, because we're going to have this area of more or less temperature discontinuity right in through here. So a lot of our cooler, unfavorable environment is going to stay to the north, and this is going to be just a breeding ground for good upward vertical velocities. So those tropical waves, as they come off of Africa, any kind of homegrown systems that form in the Caribbean and the Gulf, they're just going to have nothing but good rising, unstable air to tap into to get that latent heat exchange going. So not good at all. And this is more or less what to expect. We're kind of dialing in now. It is April 2nd. We are less than 60 days away, and I have full faith and confidence we're going to have some preseason activity too. I really do think we're going to have a named system second half of May. I really do believe so. Let's come on over to the CANSIPs. So the latest CANSIPs valid for April 1st shows us that we are in the final countdown of El Nino. CANSIPs for April identifies it very well. You can see those really, really cool anomalies off the coast of South America, and then by May, boom, El Nino. La Nina is really creeping in. And also notice, folks, look at that over the mid-latitudes and the subtropics, how they're keeping those cold anomalies up there for much of the hurricane season. This is already September. And then into October, we still have the cool anomalies, and that horseshoe shape is going to stick around. This is what we're looking at. There's your hottest anomalies. This whole area is going to stay cool. So not cool at all. Not cool at all. That's not a good sign whatsoever. And then obviously into October, September, August, La Nina in full effect. Strong La Nina in effect. Very, very boisterous La Nina for that matter. And in fact, look at that. We can finally look out to March of 2025. Negative PDO, strong negative PDO potentially for the Northern Pacific, and La Nina is going to be sticking around, and this is already March 2025, so this is an extreme forecast, but tropical season could be busy again next year. Just looking at this, and that's not a good sign. Again, we just have so many different precursor issues that do not look good. And then finally, last but not least, let's go on over to, before we round out the live stream, let's go to the North Atlantic, and we'll take a closer look at our sea surface temps. So this is June, July, August, September, and October. And notice that even as we get into the thick of the hurricane season, towards the back end of it, look at how the model is really picking up on these very, very warm anomalies across the tropics, guys. Like, the tropics are just going to be hot. We now have positive anomalies upwards of 2 degrees Celsius above the average all the way through to October, and I believe it's there in November as well. Yeah, November again. November, December, January, and then finally we start to cool off, and we get some really, really weird anomalies along the coastline here. Very, very hot Gulf of Mexico, hot Gulf Stream as well. And then I know, of course, elephant in the room, let's go over to our monthly precip totals. So again, this is why I do believe that we could have early season activity. This is May of 2024, and then this is June. Night and day difference. Somebody's going to turn on the switch, and we are very quickly going to see activity spike. And we'll have to very monitor closely for the Lesser and Greater Antilles, the Bahamas, and even Florida. We get some precip anomalies trying to creep up into the Sunshine State. So who's to say we won't get an early season impact from a tropical depression or a tropical storm in June? July, we have a full open season. You could see, again, as I'd mentioned with the anomalies, this is all void of precip action, which tells me that we're going to have a very dominant high and upper level ridge just steering stuff off to the west. It's going to be like bowling, shooting fish in a barrel almost, according to the CANSIBs. July, August looks much of the same. The Gulf of Mexico, Southeast United States, the Mid-Atlantic's going to have to watch very closely. Our interest in the Caribbean, Central America, going to have to watch closely. August, I'm telling you, my gut tells me August is going to be it. August, we're going to have something creeping in either to the southeast or the Gulf of Mexico, and we'll need to watch along the west coast of Florida, the Panhandle through to Louisiana. My gut has just been speaking to me big time. September looks like we might open up the realm for some possible fish storm activity. I'm seeing a little bit of these values skirting up and out, so we might get a couple of areas that might scrape Bermuda, some out-to-sea storms that escape. So that's a good sign. However, we're still looking at very, very, very strong precip anomalies in the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean. So I don't know. This is where I think the attention is going to shift to the east coast of the U.S., the east coast of Florida, and we might have to watch for some homegrown systems in the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico because these areas are going to be ready to go and rock for tropical development. October looks to shut us down. It looks like if we do go into a strong La Nina, October might actually just kind of quiet down. We might have to watch for Tropical Storm Vince in the Caribbean again. I'm just kidding. No, but we might have to watch for Caribbean systems before the tropics can finally quiet down. And even November, we have some very, very abnormally high moisture values. So we could possibly see some Central America, Jamaica, Cayman Islands, Hispaniola, Dominican Republic areas really flooding out there. We have to watch this closely. I don't know what this is indicating, but these are some very, very strong precip anomalies out there in the Caribbean Sea. So that's a bit of a sinister look right there, and I think it carries through into December as well. December keeps activity in the tropics, and then finally into January, you see the ITZZ shut down for business. But dang, there's no saying we won't have a system even into December, an extension of the hurricane season. And then finally things go completely La Nina, as you can see. Textbook La Nina signature, dry over the south, wet in the north. We're going to have a complete reversal of what kind of winter season we had this year. And I do apologize, folks. I know that we really didn't get to talk too much about tropics tonight, but we're going to go ahead and start getting ready to cut the live stream from there and get ready to close up shop. It's been a very long and busy day for me, so I'm going to try to go get a shower in soon and get some rest because I have one more day of work, one more day, and then going to be traveling down to Puerto Rico to see my aunt and uncle, or my aunt and her husband down there in Puerto Rico. I will still likely shoot some content for you guys on TikTok, and I'll shoot some content for YouTube, maybe even try to do a live stream depending on what we're doing. And I'll stream from Puerto Rico, and I'll talk to you guys from PR. And I'm going to take that time to really kind of memorize the geography of Puerto Rico to help bolster my forecast for the tropical season. But thank you guys very much for watching. We will do a few more tropics talks within the next week or so because we still have our NMME ensemble that comes out, and then we also have our next seasonal Euro product that's going to come out as well. So I believe by second week of April, we should have North American multi-model in, and we should also have our European seasonal model. And before you guys tune out, I definitely want to do a live stream to discuss what Colorado State University releases in their Thursday 2024 forecast. This Thursday in the morning, I believe it's 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, is when CSU is going to release their preliminary hurricane season forecast. And they're one of the big heavy hitters in the tropics, so in their tropical forecast. So I'm very curious to see what they say. To be determined if I will have the capabilities of going live on Thursday to debrief it. I would love to do that, but obviously I'm going to be traveling in the morning, and we're going to have a lot going on throughout much of the day. So maybe at night, might be able to jump on and talk about it for at least just a half an hour stream. But please don't hold me to that. Worst case, we'll just go ahead and debrief on Sunday once I'm wheels on the ground, boots on the ground here in Florida again. And then we also have to start looking at the possibilities of severe weather over this upcoming weekend and into next week. What our next couple of systems that are going to be barreling through for the month of April. April is the full open the floodgates of severe weather action. So for my viewers on TikTok, we have to watch for some severe weather into this weekend, potentially over the southern central plains. And then even next week, it looks like we might have another trough ejection occurring from the Great Lakes. Oh my God, I'm definitely getting tired. From the Front Range, the Great Basin of the central and southern Rockies, that could definitely ramp up our plains and our Midwest severe weather threat all over again. So we will see what happens. I'll take one last look at the radar just to see exactly what's going on out there, see if there's any new updates I need to pass along for you guys. Let's see. Knoxville, Tennessee, not really have a whole lot going on down there right now. I'd mentioned earlier in the brief, you just have some moderate rainfall, some heavier rainfall in the central portions of the state, training over the central area of the state, moving off towards the northeast. Knoxville, you're pretty quiet right now. And it looks like we have officially discontinued all of our severe weather warnings in Kentucky. And actually, yeah, looks like a large majority of our severe weather warnings have also discontinued in Ohio. We have 2 active warnings with our flood warning and 1 tornado warning still headed towards that one location that a viewer asked earlier. Cadiz, tornado warning storm headed towards your area. So that's the one current valid tornado warning that is ongoing right now. Everything else has discontinued. So once again, forecast doing fairly sharp. We're starting to slowly see everything shut down, washed together. Overnight tonight, we might have some elevated winds, lots of lightning. Could see some power outages from the gusty winds and the lightning strikes, obviously, if they have frequent cloud to ground in your local area. But the flood risk is something we don't want to ignore throughout the night as well. Definitely still keep your electronic devices close. Just because the tornadoes aren't popping off and we don't have severe warnings doesn't mean that the weather is over with entirely. There's still things we need to just be cognizant of that could affect your sleeping overnight, could affect your drive to work in the morning, the students or your children going to school in the morning. And then, I would like to start tomorrow with a nice workout and a nice breakfast, but if it does seem like things are pressing or we have an elevated risk of severe weather here in the southeast or along the east coast, we'll be back to it again, going live and doing a briefing on the TikTok and on YouTube. But I should really stop drinking energy drink. It is 9:06 at night. I'm still over here sipping caffeine. Sheesh, can you tell I've been slaving all day today? But guys, I really want to thank you very much for your kind and wonderful support, both on YouTube and on TikTok. Thank you very much on my TikTok for all my new followers. Thank you very much for the kind words and all the questions and the interest that you've shown in my live stream. I know you're mainly just asking for your local area, but regardless, I love the interaction. I love getting to network and just get the face out there, kind of earn some street credibility with you guys. Hopefully we'll have you coming back in for more information down the road. And we're not going anywhere. TikTok, Lord willing, if it's in the cards for us, we'll continue to grow and get our influence and the word out there, continue to provide you with the most realistic and accurate weather forecast and weather coverage that I can to the best of my ability. Same thing with my YouTube channel, guys. Throughout this month, you're slowly going to notice a difference. We're going to start doing more tropical briefs. We're going to start doing a lot more preparedness briefs. We're going to start a little bit more of that getting ready for hurricane season, because everybody in big weather across the planet, especially here in North America, once you hit that April 1st time frame, you're in that downward descent. We are in the final countdown. It's the final countdown, and hurricane season is going to be like this. I still can't believe earlier today I accidentally mentioned March a couple times to a few of the patients I spoke to. Because, dang, it's already April. We are done with the first quarter of 2024. We're into the second quarter, and it's just going to keep flying. It's going to keep flying. there's my cue to go ahead and start ending the live streams. I have 10% battery left on my phone. So yeah, guys, we will be back very soon on YouTube and on the TikTok. If you guys are interested in sitting in on a live Tropics Talk brief, we have our North American multi-model ensemble that's going to come out. We have our European ensemble that's going to come out. New tornado warning. It looks like they reissued the tornado warning in Ohio to the east of Lancaster. They have reinitiated that tornado warning. We have a brand new tornado warning. Just to the southwest of Cambridge, south of New Concord, heading in towards the Wilds, it looks like on the radar. Center, headed towards Cadiz, St. Clairsville. We still have that tornado warning storm, so we have 2 active tornado warnings in Ohio now. Again, about 2 to 3 more hours, and this is going to be finally wrapping up. We just have to survive the next couple of hours, and we will be in the clear, and the Midwest can take a sigh of relief and kind of chill for all intents and purposes. We have some stuff trying to brew up near Columbus, but nothing of significant concern, just some localized heavy rainfall. And, yeah, that's about it. So, folks, we will definitely... Birmingham, Alabama, you have some moderate-level stuff headed your way right now. Kind of trying to sneak in to your southwest. It's kind of headed towards Tuscaloosa right now. So you have maybe another 45 minutes to an hour before that stuff rolls in. But, folks, I sincerely apologize. If you keep asking questions, I'm not going to end the live stream because I'm just that focused. Let's see. Nina, rainy, wind, and thunder starting in Massillon. Am I saying that right? Massillon, Ohio. Oh, Mick and Marley, thank you so much. Silver Steel S, I do really appreciate. Amanda Kirby, same as well. Kevin, wonderful words of kindness. I definitely appreciate that. And again, same thing with my TikTok viewers. South Carolina, you're quiet for right now. South Carolina is doing okay. North Carolina as well. We still have a little while before things kick off. I think for South and North Carolina and the eastern half of Virginia, the east coast of Virginia, our day is going to be tomorrow. So be on the lookout for more updates on my TikTok feed and in my story. If I have the opportunity to do so, I will go live. Tomorrow's going to be a lot more difficult because just getting ready to travel. Got to be up at 3 in the morning to get to the Orlando International Airport on Thursday for a flight out. And then once we get into Puerto Rico, I will touch base with you guys, and we will see what is going on and what's what in the weather sphere, as I like to call it. But TikTok, before we sign out, questions, comments, concerns, leave them in the comments on my most recent posts or drop me a private message if you want to do that. Feel free to reach out anytime. I always get back to you guys. I always make it a point. You can ask any of my longtime YouTube viewers, even if it takes me a little while because I have other human things going on in the background. Well, that was cool. I have other human things going on in the background. It might take me a little bit in certain instances to get back to you, but I will definitely get back to you regardless. I always try to answer all comments. I'm not a fan of the big channels, the huge channels with a huge following who blatantly say, I ignore comments. I don't pay attention to comments. That's wrong because, yeah, you're going to get the shade. Yeah, you're going to get the flack. You're going to get the trolls, etc. But at the same time, you should still pay attention regardless because you're going to have genuine questions, genuine viewers who just want some insight, and that's why I pay close attention to it as best as I can, even if I'm sitting there for over an hour just responding to people. Same thing with my YouTube, folks. If you're finishing up on the live stream, leave me a comment in the comment section attached to this live or my most recent post, or just find me on other social media platforms. Happy to get back to you. Tiffany Prime, thank you very much for tuning in from Tallahassee. Tomorrow I do think is going to be our day, if not some early morning nocturnal stuff between 2 and 4 a.m. We might see some activity try to boil its way down to the Panhandle. But thank you guys all across the board. I cannot wait until I can merge TikTok and YouTube. I try the best that I can, but being a one-man shop here, it's hard to go from TikTok and watch you guys' comments back to YouTube, and I don't want to neglect YouTube either, and it seems like that's what ends up happening. So eventually, Lord willing, if it's in the cards, we'll get the followership up on TikTok, and we can merge the two together, start streaming simultaneously, and we can all join the collaboration in the comments and just buckle up and ride everything out together as a community. That's the goal. That's the end goal. Come together and try to stand out amongst the weather community, helping each other and teaming up to just get the word out amongst all of us. Kay, thank you for keeping us updated and answering questions. Oh, you're very welcome. I'm doing my best, and I promise I'm going to continue to work hard to get back to everybody in the TikTok, on YouTube, on even Instagram and other social media platforms. It's tough, and I want to extend a sincere apology if I missed you on TikTok and I didn't see your message A lot of messages. I have like maybe this much space on my phone screen to see these comments, and when there's a lot more people in there, it's just like closed captioning. It just flies by. So if I didn't answer your question, it's not because I missed you or ignored you. It's just I couldn't see it in time. I'm looking at data, trying to brief, try to answer questions. Athens, Ohio, do you know about Birmingham? Birmingham is okay for right now. You have some stuff sneaking into your southwest, but nothing that's special weather statement right now or special weather stated or severe. And let me see. Let's go ahead and look up Athens, Ohio. Athens, Ohio. And this has to be my last search, folks. If not, you're just going to keep distracting me. And I know that's why you're doing it. You're tapping into my weather instincts, and you're like, let me just ask another question, and he'll stay on the live stream a little bit longer. Athens, Ohio, you have nothing in your immediate vicinity. You're under some very moderate to heavy rainfall, but the severe thunderstorm activity has been discontinued. In fact, there were some severe cells just to the west of Jackson. Those have since washed out, so you're probably going to get windy, probably going to get rainy over the next hour or so as this stuff blows through. Be on the lookout for potential localized flooding, urban flooding, for sure. But, you're doing better than you give yourself credit for. Doing great. I just try to keep it modest and humble. I feel like there's a lot that I can still improve on, a lot that I improvise on, but I work hard to try to get the word out as best as I can. I personally think I still suck at this. The social media weather content creator. I'm doing my best. I'm trying to roll with the punches while still maintaining a personal life and other things, college, meteorology degree, the Navy weather, training there. Like there's so many things, but I do my best. So yeah, guys, we're going to go ahead and cut the stream. Tiffany, thank you so much for your kind words and appreciation. We truly appreciate you. My storm anxiety is fierce and you help calm me. That's the name of the game. And I feel like true dedicated meteorologists, that's what they're capable of doing. They're very capable of explaining what is worrisome, what should be concerning, but at the same time giving you that good weatherman bedside manner, just like they give you in the doctor's office, It pains me on the inside when I see weather folks broadcasting or live streaming or explaining stuff, and all they want to do is, oh, look out, extreme, death, destruction, and they don't want to calm people down. I feel like it takes a true meteorologist to communicate to their community. We do need to prepare for this. We do need to watch for this, but at the same time, we're going to be just fine. We're going to keep you safe, and we don't want to focus on the bad. We also want to focus on the positives. And far too often, especially in YouTube and social media weather, it seems like everyone loves to hype and just focus on the bad. And, that's not what it's all about. In fact, it's about communicating what needs to be communicated and then building your public back up because it's safety. It's not about just focusing on the negatives. But, thank you guys very much for watching. We're going to go ahead and wrap up. I know I've said that like 12 times already. And we'll keep you updated. Tomorrow, there's really no schedule of events, but I will touch base with you guys sometime in the morning. Central Florida, mid-afternoon. Lunch hour through to about 3 p.m. is when Central Florida is going to get kind of sporty. Northern half of the state's going to go off before that. Hydra 47. And for my folks on TikTok, be on the lookout for more story posts. Be on the lookout for more live posts on my feed. We still have one more day of severe weather to get through, and that's tomorrow. It'll be East Coast and Florida. Southern Georgia, maybe, but it looks like it's more so going to be a predominant Florida East Coast day. East Coast of Virginia through the eastern halves of the Carolinas, still probably the southern and southeast quadrant of Georgia, and especially Florida. We'll keep a close eye out, and we'll check in with you guys as soon as I'm up in the morning, drop you a couple story updates or maybe just a live discussion for a little while, because I would like to go work out tomorrow. I didn't do that today. I really want to work out tomorrow. So, to be determined, but I will get back to you guys, okay? And then, yes, Mick and Marley, a sporty nudge. I love that. Give it a little nudge. And that's what's going to happen. We're going to get a little nudge from that low pressure that's spinning up in the northeast. But, okay, we will talk to you very soon. Allie, your sweet, genuine soul is why you're going to go so far. Don't ever change. We love you, Nazar. Wow, okay. I'm sorry. That definitely hit. That definitely hit. I appreciate that very much. Because when I get on these streams and I work to the point where I am burnt, exhausted, and I'm going to try not to get emotional. I do it because I love weather. I don't do it for the clout. I don't do it for, like someone mentioned earlier, it's not clout chasing. It's not for anything besides just reaching as many people as possible to just give them a little education and give them a little insight on what the weather is like in your neck of the woods. I've loved weather since I was 4 years old. And I've had so many people who have interacted with me mention, dang, how are you not on the Weather Channel already? Dang, how are you not doing this? And, I finally said enough is enough. It was a little too late in my Air Force weather career. I got a late start on my degree because I thought I would stay in Air Force weather. And now we're doing it on the civilian side and in the Navy Reserves. So, but we're getting there, Allie. I really do appreciate that a lot. I can't tell you how much. And I'm going to remember that comment for weeks, if not probably for the rest of my days, especially the genuine soul. That's what it's all about. Keeping it real with everybody. And with that being said, we're going to end on a very, very positive note. Thank you for the last time for everyone's continued support, your questions, comments, and concerns, and for riding this out with me throughout the day today. It's been a pleasure. It definitely has been a pleasure, and we have a lot more where that came from. That is 100% for sure. And we're going to keep grinding out, trying to reach as more people as we can and build the Weather Center community together. We're still a small channel, but we're slowly growing and glowing and growing as the statement goes. And I know that the busiest time of the year has yet to come. We're going to have severe weather and hurricanes to battle side by side. So you definitely want to stick around for that. So everybody, we will talk to you again very soon. We're going to go ahead and close out the live stream. I'm going to throw the salute to you guys down there in TikTok one more time. And until tomorrow, folks, God bless. Be safe for the rest of the evening. Maintain your situational awareness, and we'll talk to you again soon. This is Weather Center Nazario signing out. And all right, to my YouTube folks, we will definitely touch base very soon. We will see what tomorrow has in store for us, and if it does seem like it needs to happen, even though I told myself I really wouldn't dive deep into weather the day before my trip, I might break live again, and it might piss some people off, but, if it needs to be done, it needs to be done. But thank you all for being such a wonderful audience, and I know that it is a little difficult sometimes going back and forth between phone, leaning back, doing this, and, it's tough. Once I can merge the two, and hopefully we grow enough on TikTok to where we can finally blend everything together. It'll be a lot easier just to have everybody consolidated in a chat, and that's the goal. And that's the main reason I keep pushing for followers, is just to make things easier, and reach more people. That's the bottom line. And obviously, of course, underlying theme, the more followers and the more growth we see, the faster I can jump on here and finally do this full time. I don't have to tell you, school, work, etc. I can just dedicate everything I have to weather, and that is the long-term goal. Live, retire, and die doing the weather. Period. With a couple other hobbies on the side, but you know what I mean. You save people and help us to keep our babies safe, and we appreciate that. Your updates are beyond helpful and soothing. Thanks for all you do. Tiffany Prime, very, very, very big thanks. Very big thanks. Means so much. And I can't wait until I get the opportunity to get out there in the trenches with you guys and give you that first look, first line of sight interaction with whatever is on the horizon for hurricane season or the rest of severe weather season. As much as I don't want to, it is time, guys. We'll see you again soon. We'll talk tomorrow. Be safe for the rest of the evening. Again, like I said on TikTok, maintain that situational awareness, and we are going to be finishing up this severe threat in less than 24 hours now. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, this is Weather Center Nazario, signing out.